session today of Track 2. We have an excellent treat, a full panel of experts for your learning knowledge opportunities. So I'm going to be introducing Taeke. He's going to come out and introduce the rest of our panelists.
Welcome. So you might have seen in 2021 and even 2022, there have been quite some acquisitions in the WordPress space. I'm not sure if that's COVID related or not, but we did see them happening more and more often, and they seem to get bigger and bigger. So we thought it would be a good idea to have a bit of a panel discussion on that and see what is behind that, what is involved, and how does that work. Today we have an excellent panel, and I would like to introduce them one by one. After that they will introduce themselves a bit more. Marieke van der Rakt. Shane. Joshua. And last but not least, Devin. So let's start with, well, ladies first, I guess. Marieke, can you tell a bit about yourself, but mainly why you're here? What is your story in this acquisition topic?
For sure. My name is Marieke van der Rakt, and I was the owner and former CEO of Yoast. I think most people know Yoast of the Yoast SEO plugin. And in the Yoast sold to a company called Newfold Digital. Bit of a new company. They best known brand I think is Bluehost. And we sold in August 2021, so about 9 months ago, no, a little bit more even. And we're really happy about that. So that's why I'm here.
Cool. Shane, what's your story?
Hi everybody, my name is Shane Perlman. I live in the Canary Islands, and I've been part of Modern Tribe and one of the partners at Modern Tribe for a lot of years. We've done a number of acquisitions over the years. We bought GigPress, we bought WP Sandbox, among a lot of others, and we've also sold a number of companies. In 2020, we sold the events calendar to LiquidWeb. We also, which for many of you know is a large plugin in the WordPress space, we also run a fairly good-sized agency doing large projects, a lot of them WordPress for global brands, and sold that company last November. We've also sold some iPhone apps over the years, as much other things. So services, products, bought, sold, did the whole thing.
So you basically know both sides of the story, being
Buyer
the acquirer and being acquired,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Joshua?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Joshua Strebel. 18 years ago, my wife, Sally, and I started a company doing web design work, and we came across this WordPress thing. And so about 13 years ago, we launched Pagely, the first managed WordPress hosting platform. And more recently, as of November, we exited that company in an acquisition to GoDaddy. So through that journey, we went from WordPress version 1.2 to we're shipping 6 now to all our customers. Or I think 6 is the latest, right?
Last week.
And you know, I got to see this whole managed WordPress thing happen, right? As the first entrant, it was just us. And then now there's, what, 50 or 60 viable options to host a WordPress site. And so now, as part of GoDaddy, we're trying to capture that magic in a bottle again, but do it at scale. Because, you know, now I'm part of the largest WordPress host on the planet. Let's see if we can have some more fun with that.
Thank you. Did you also acquire in those years?
You know, funny story, I did. It was a little company called BlogDroid, and they had like 6 customers.
Were you happy with that?
You know, I considered it a marketing expense. You know, like in our second year of business, we made an acquisition, but it was nothing.
Cool, so you can also talk about both sides of the story. All right, Devin, can you tell a bit about you and your company?
Yep, my name is Devin Walker. I'm from San Diego, California. Co-founder of GiveWP, and previous to our acquisition, I was long-term CEO original developer, designer. We started it in 2014, really with a focus on serving nonprofits with the best platform available for WordPress, kind of a niche digital commerce experience for that specific group. We were acquired almost a little more than a year ago by Liquid Web and our stellar WP family of brands now. And it's been a great journey. I've learned a lot along the way. Alongside GiveWP, I've sold micro acquisitions, micro sales of smaller plugins before, but this was by far the largest one I was involved in. Since going over Liquid Web, I get to see both sides of it, and now from a year of experience, I've learned a lot about not only selling, but also acquiring as well.
Cool, thanks. I realized, Marieke, I forgot to ask you, did you ever acquire a company or a product?
We acquired duplicate posts. And Enrico.
Fairly recently, no?
Yeah, we're really happy about that. Yeah, I think it was during COVID, maybe 2 years ago.
So it is a COVID thing? Just
Acquiring?
acquiring and
Not
getting acquired?
necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, it's good to know. The idea is to just have a casual talk about these acquisitions in the WordPress space. Is there anything that I cannot ask you? Is there some things that you'd rather not talk about? Is there stuff that you can't say, maybe?
Yeah.
Like?
Look, y'all.
What can you not tell?
Every single one of these processes goes under what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And there's a lot of things that we share about staff, about pay, about the journey we have. And also, sometimes there's conversations we have with people to make sure we're making good decisions, other brands, other acquirers that we can't talk about because we agreed not to. And so you might ask questions, and if we say, I'm so sorry, I can't answer that, it's not that we don't want to tell you, it's not respect, it's that we've made agreements to not share that information. So you could ask me things like, how much money did you sell for? And I'll be like, I'm so sorry, I actually can't tell you that. What I can do is guide you towards valuations that are common or other generic information. And you can always buy me a beer and who knows. But in
That's for
public,
tomorrow night, the after party.
I just need to add real quick that I was asked by GoDaddy Corporate Legal to say, I am here of my own volition. The words are my own. I do not speak on behalf of the company at this event.
Are you now looking at the legal
GoDaddy
department
knows
also?
Josh. So.
All right. Devin, can you tell us a bit about what makes a business look attractive to be acquired? Do you have an idea what goes on there?
Absolutely. Clean books, good standing with your government is always a good start. If the government's coming after you for back taxes, not a good thing at all. Clear ownership structures. If you've taken investment in the past, if you're in debt, those complicate things, extend timelines, make you a little less attractive, depending on the buyer. How good your product is, what are your reviews, how's your support? All these are combinations. It's not just 1 or 2 or 3 points. It's a combination of all, and they have priorities depending on who you're looking to sell to or who's interested in talking with you. They might have priorities on other ones versus others. So, it's a wide array of elements that go into making a good company to equate to that valuation.
Can I add the buyer, whether it's a strategic buyer or like a private equity financial buyer, those criteria are could be very different, or there could be some overlap.
Right.
Even more so, because there, Josh mentioned you can have a strategic buyer. By a strategic buyer, that means somebody who has a business plan where your business fits well into their business to grow it. Like there's a strategic reason for buying it versus a financial buyer is I want to put money in and get more money out.
Is that what we call the buy and build strategy? Is that the more...
So that could be a version of strategic. There's also internal buyers. Sometimes you get bought out by your business partners. Sometimes we have friends who just turned it into an employee-owned company. and they sold it to their staff. And so depending on who the buyer is, they're looking for different things. And so what makes it attractive can be really different.
Anything to add, Marieke?
No, I think what I saw is that they look a lot at how much recurring revenue you have. So, so that was something that I thought. I never heard of the term ARR before, but that was something that was in many meetings.
So what does that mean, ARR?
Annual recurring renewal. So they're looking for things that can grow over time and continue to make money. So a lifetime license to a plugin doesn't scale as good as a recurring model does.
Yeah.
And profit.
Yeah, that
Profit
goes
helps. Like if your business actually makes money at the end of the day and leaves it in the bank account, that is a very different negotiating position than if your business is burning. Not that you can't sell one trying, but it is a very different story, and it is much easier to sell a profitable business because you're doing it on your own time frame with your own control. You don't have a ticking clock.
Thank you. So I think this is a question for all of you. What made you sell? What is behind that? Were you looking for a buyer? Were you ready to, kind of change your lifestyle or spend more time with family or, surf all day long, whatever? Or have you been approached like 20 times in a row and just figured, okay, maybe this is going to be a good deal?
Well, all of those.
All of those.
Yeah. Briefly, it's like my wife and I were doing this for 19 years. Like we're business owners for 19 years. And so the 26-year-olds that started were not the 44-year-olds that sold the company, right? And so that's a whole lifetime in there. And you change what you want, you change your motivation, you change why you're doing things. But then also it's the identity that you have as that founder doing this thing. You may outgrow it to some degree. You may be ready for something else. But the flexibility of surfing every day, like there's some awesomeness.
You can still do that with your business. Like,
yeah,
if you design
the
it
lifestyle
correctly.
business thing is money. Like you don't need to sell to get the lifestyle business.
That's the first thing I was going to say. Step one, build a business you actually want to own.
Yeah.
And keep and have. And that, because look, a business is a vehicle for a life. That is why you have a business, that it is shaped for your life, ideally, that it gives you the challenges that keep you motivated, the income in the way and shape and form. For my family, it was time flexibility. We designed our businesses so that I could surf when the tide was low once I had kids later, so that I could engage with them when they were available. And so for a lot of years for us, we got offers. I mean, we started in 2000. We got offers every few years. eBay tried to buy us, lots of people. And I was like, why? What are you going to do for my life that's any better or different than what I have out of my business now? And for a lot of years, nobody could actually give me an outcome that was more interesting than being in the business. And it was only recently that opportunities and sale opportunities came up that were like, wow, that does look incredibly interesting. Like, that sounds like a cool problem to solve.
That's the hook. Being able to do more cool shit.
Yeah.
Because, Pagely was up here in its little corner, but then by joining GoDaddy, now the whole thing is ours. And we get to go do all this new cool shit, which I couldn't do as a small 50-person company.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about like the power a bigger brand can give you, for sure. One thing we really looked at too was like, what does it mean for our team? Yeah, right, we're a smaller company, I think at the peak before acquisition, around 30 folks. We wanted to give them better benefits, more upward trajectory, things like that. And once you get to a certain level, either you're looking for investment and to keep that ownership, but relinquish some equity, which you can do, and a lot of people have done that successfully, or the other option. Of course, it's good for the owners it's generally always good, but our team was also, it was number one. Number two was our brand, and that also includes the product. But the team, and I think for all of us, was number one.
So I think for us it was a little bit different, and still I also started with my husband, and we didn't age at all. We just Stayed exactly the same.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. And I think we started around the same time, or at least in the WordPress world, we started around the same time. But I think for us, COVID hit, and we had 120 people on our payroll. And we're a European company, so most of our people live in Europe. So all of our expenses are in euros. But we sell worldwide, so most of our income is in dollars. And you guys have this crazy person as a president.
No.
Not anymore, but you did. And so those kind of things actually are influential in how much money we make because of the exchange rate. And that got us both worried. I think me a little bit more than Yoast, but it was pressure on our shoulders of can we keep doing this? When COVID hit, we had one bad month of less growth. We never had that before, and it quickly got better, but something like that could happen, and we wanted our company and all of the people that work for us to be safe. And to add to that, my husband was bored. So that was a reason to sell as well. Yeah.
I think I read a blog about that. So can you still do cool shit?
Yeah, we can do everything we did before. So we actually we reached out to a banker, and that person helped us to get acquired. So we talked to a lot of different companies that will potentially buy us, and then we ran through a process and talked to so many people, and then eventually ended up with Newfold Digital.
So you had an advisor really taking you through this process. Does it go for all of you, or is it more something you did on your own?
We hired an advisor who I had met 7 or 8 years ago at a post-status event, Publish or something. Steve Lee, amazing guy. And he was vital to the success of our deal because, I don't know if any of y'all know me, I talk a lot of trash. Probably don't do that while you're negotiating your life's work away. So having a wiser, saner, more mature voice at the table, but working for me, was very instrumental. So.
I think so too. We are really pleased. So I'm going to do a little advertisement for our banker. He will be so pleased. So we had RBC, the Royal Bank of Canada, and he really took our interests at heart. And that makes it easier because we didn't have to talk about money in all those conversations. We just talked about our products and about all the things that are important. And then he would talk about valuation and stuff. I'm really bad at talking about money, so...
So you gave him an instruction, like this is the minimum that we want to...
Well, yes.
Or did he give you an advice on that?
Yes,
also?
he advised, and bankers know everything. They also know what was sold for what and stuff. I don't know how he knows.
Right, because it's their job. Like, hire the expert, right?
That's why I hired him.
Yeah, I don't know how to sell a company. I barely knew how to run one.
Which, to be fair though, so we talked to a lot of them for advice, and we had enough friends, and you introduced me one, and we didn't end up hiring anyone because we talked to them. They were kind enough to give us a few hours at a time, talk over the business, tell us where the landscape was, and a few of them gave me advice. They're like, do you know anybody in your close personal network who's probably a good strategic fit? If so, just go talk to them first. See if you've got something there, because the bankers take a pretty hefty commission, as they should. They provide a really valuable service, but it is a lot of money. And so they told me, go talk to the people you know, and one of the powerful things at being events like this is that hallway out there. And I've built a lot of friends over the years, talking to other people, seeing what they're doing, watching them grow way past me and do amazing things, and eventually come knock on the door and be like, hey, I got this vision, do you have a vision? And every one of those times, that worked out for us. We were able to find somebody who had a passion that engaged us and had a bank pocketbook that was attractive, and the two of them went together. So you don't have to, but it's worth having those conversations because they'll guide you on things like valuation. They'll guide you on what things to be worried about, if there's anything you should change, and prep you.
So are you saying that maybe the money is not even the main driver, but more getting these visions aligned? Is that, or maybe that worked for you? Or is it
I'd say the process, yeah.
Okay.
The money is almost easier. It was easy in my deal. Like we came to terms very quickly, but the mechanics of executing all that, man, that's just way above my pay grade, you know?
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
That
much?
does.
How long are we talking about? Devin, maybe I see.
Well, we didn't have any bankers help us. We had lots of lawyers and mentors help us along the way. For sure, there's the lawyer, the LOI phase, which is a letter of intent, is kind of like the first initial, like, we're really interested in you. You have some conversations before that phase. And it takes a while to get to that phase. You have to sort of sign an NDA, and even to get to there, for most cases. But our personal relationships with a lot of the community, like Shane said, helped us along the way. But as far as how long the actual start to finish did, 6 to 7 months for us.
Marieke?
That's
For us
long.
too, and that's including talking to like too many people. Yeah, to other parties. Yeah, so the LOI actually was like within 5 weeks or 6 weeks. We got signed. Yeah, we're very fast.
Yeah.
at the
But I
end.
guess getting there and the process and talking to these
No, yeah,
people
and we had
is
different,
valuable, right?
different potential buyers.
Right.
So that
Same here.
that makes them work a little faster because there are more people that potentially want to
course.
buy. It's just like buying a house, only more exhausting.
Unless you run a formal process, you already know your buyer.
Yeah.
And so you can, like a lot of these discussions are happening here. You know, in the hallway, some future
Right.
transaction will be consummated based on the discussion happening here today.
And it can happen really quick. Like for the events calendar, from initial conversation to money in the bank was like 40 days. Really fast. And part of that was because we had a very clear vision. We had a number of offers, but we already knew who we wanted to go with. And the other part, the very first thing Devin said, if your books are clean and well organized and you can run good reports, they put us through a huge due diligence process, gave us an 80-point checklist, and said, cool, how much time do you need to get this? And I said, I'll have it on Monday, and they just blinked. Because it usually takes people 2 months to put that together. And I was like, no, I got it all. Because I'm weird and I like spreadsheets, but that made things happen in a way that I don't think is normal.
I think that's a really valuable takeaway of this discussion already. Like, be prepared, maybe. Have your, be organized and get your shit together. Make sure that you can pull it up by Monday instead of taking 2 months of going through your accounting.
And there are tools out there that help. So having Metoric turned on, for those of you who use WooCommerce and want like a good dashboard looking at, like having tools out there that answer the kind of questions they're going to ask. Hey, what's your churn rate? What's your recurring revenue? What can you segment these groups? And they asked all these questions. I'm like, yeah, my tools can do that. And so being able to have tools that allow you, the advantage of a lot of those tools is they also help you run the business. Mm-hmm. You're not using them because you're getting acquired. You're using them so you can make smart decisions to have a successful business. It also just happens that they help you if and when you find a right partner.
That's so true. We got so many new ideas because you get to talk to a lot of smart people, and then they ask you, have you thought about that? And we say, no, and I see each other looking at each other thinking, we should do that. So we got a lot of ideas in prior discussions as well with possible acquirers that got us further.
Yeah, having our ducks in a row saved our ass, because it was a publicly traded company that made the acquisition. So the due diligence was extra brutal. Like, we need every piece of paper ever signed with your name on it from the dawn of time. Luckily, we had a CFO that was like, oh, yeah, right here. Boy, that would have been so painful without having the expert help or the process already in place in a good document repository system and all these
Which
things.
isn't too bad if you're a products company, because the number of contracts that you have, the number of things, they're pretty small. Let's switch to a service company. If you're an agency and they want the last 5 years of customer contracts you've ever had, every change order, everything, and they want it signed by all relevant parties. Do you know how hard it is to find that customer 4 years ago who forgot to sign a thing and produce that? It's brutal. And I'll be honest, that was one of the things that caught us off guard. We changed director of sales for a little while, and that gap period, things were a mess. And we lost weeks trying to fill in gaps, which was our fault. We shouldn't have had those. But, that's one of the things that people don't consider, which is good hygiene.
Yeah, another thing is you go through this whole process too, and there's no guarantee until the last day. And so you're always on sort of the edge of it. And I remember when that money came in the bank or it was all finished, and you have this huge sigh of relief. You've gone through the 80-point checklist. The third-party company audited your core plugin and your 36 add-ons, and you've done a proof of revenue exercise that lasts, a day and a half. It's a lot of work, and I know owners out there that the rug's been pulled out on literally the last day.
Yeah. We were in Disneyland when the money came in. The deal was done, and we promised we go to Disneyland to our children, so we really had to go, but the money wasn't in, but we still went, and then in the middle of, I don't know, It's a Small World, we got some money.
So you extended the trip, spend another week or so.
I mean, Josh, not names or details, but how many times did you go through the rodeo in general?
Well, I got to tell GoDaddy no twice before I told him yes once, and those no's are in a pile of 15 others.
Right.
So at least 2 a year or 1 a year the entire time we were in business, we did the dance.
Right. And the thing is, a lot of people haven't been through it, don't realize it's like taking an extra night job, because you got to keep running your business because there's a really good chance it's not going to be the right fit. And so you do all this work on the maybe, but you still got to manage your team, and you still got to serve your customers, and you still got to build that roadmap to have a good vision, because that roadmap is what the conversation's about anyways, and you got to execute on it. And so it's really easy to burn out on that. That's a risk. A lot of people are like, I want big exit, but it's an extra duty on top.
Thanks. Bit of a different question. In my introduction, I mentioned the COVID period, that we saw this increase, or what felt like an increase in all these acquisitions. What is your general view on what does it mean for the WordPress ecospace, the ecosystem, basically? What does it mean for products and services? These companies being acquired and those being acquired, and is this a good development? Is this something that we should all aim for, or is it just life? This is what happens, and
I do think that WordPress is growing up as a business. So it's normal that this is an area of mergers and acquisitions, because that's usually the case if an ecosystem or a new business line begins. So I do think that's happening. I don't think it's necessarily related to COVID at all.
No, it's the opposite. I think COVID slowed it down.
Yeah.
I think you would have seen all this happening in 2019, 2020 if it wasn't for COVID in a much higher pace.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And somehow it was more visible or so.
No, the industry...
we were all sitting at home for 2 years, dude.
F5, what's happening?
No, because, if you look, like Marieke, you're saying, if you look, every single industry goes through a discovery period. It's usually the first 10%, where there's a small number of insane people who are like, I see something nobody else does, and they go into the void and they create, and then there's
a plugin with 1 million users and no money. That's
no
what
money.
They do.
So, and then you've got a period of time where the rest of the 90% of users catch up. That's called mass adoption, and that happens usually in the same time period as the first phase of 10%. And then you have a consolidation phase. And that consolidation phase are the people who figure out how to run these effectively, who figure out how to really care for the consumers. They slowly start merging and adopting. And then typically in almost every industry, you see a domination phase. And that domination phase is played by 2, 3, 4, 5 core players. If you go look at search, if you go look at maps, if you go look at email, you will see every one of the industry. And then eventually you hit a disruption phase again, and somebody comes up with something totally new that the whole world's like, oh my God, you're right, that's exactly what we needed. And it
the Web3.
Well, on your point, Shane, yes, domination and then disruption, and they're happening simultaneously because in good faith, I'm really happy with my new role at GoDaddy, but I can tell you there's still so many cracks for small guys to play in. Big, massive GoDaddy, it turns slow, it moves slow, it's going to get there a year from now. There is so much opportunity, though, still for the next Josh or the next Shane or the next Devin or the next Yoast and crew, right? It's good, I think, because this big domination or consolidation legitimizes the work of thousands of people over the last 16, 17 years of the project.
Right.
There's trillions of dollars of economic activity happening that has now been legitimized. But that shouldn't be a bad thing because I guarantee you, this whole front row could be the next killer plugin next year, and that back row could be the whole next killer hosting company next year.
So do you see it as a good development for products and services in general? Do they improve by these kind of acquisitions?
I think in general, right? I think that...
Yeah, you guys got better.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the main goals, put some fuel behind the brand and access to capital that we haven't had, access to different collaborations. Like, I get to work with Shane. I get to work with the Modern Tribe crew. The stellar WP family of brands, like, we can access other lead developers. Before, it was like we were kind of working in our own silo. Of course, there's WordCamp's collaboration, but nothing like you're working together every day, which is great.
The one bad outcome is GiveWP was a long-time Pagely customer. One of our reference customers, no less. Like, we got testimonials with this guy.
Yeah, we had to move hosts.
And then he goes and sells to another hosting company.
Cool.
Point being is, I don't think it's COVID, and I think as the world opens up, you'll see more of it. It's less that it's going to be like one behemoth, and the fact is, there's no such thing as like the WordPress ecosystem. There are a million of different little ecosystems that connect with users in their particular cases, whether they're running communities or whether they're selling products, and the needs are so diverse. That there is a very long journey ahead of us.
Yeah, because the big players they will only attack a channel with huge opportunity.
Right.
And so they're only going to they're only going to aim their guns where they think they can make $200, $300, $400 million. But they're going to leave all these open channels for everybody else to play in.
Right.
Something else that I've been wondering, I run a business, I have a team. What is the impact of these kind of acquisitions? When talking about team, I think in the introduction, every single one mentioned like, it's all about the team, we want to make sure that
It's a huge impact, I think. So, and under Dutch law, we have a works council. Yeah. So they actually had to advise us. So what we did is very early on in the process, connected with them and told them what we were planning to do. So they were involved throughout the entire process. And in the entire acquisition process, I wanted to do what's best for me and Yoast, and then second came what's best for the employees, and then third came what's best for WordPress, because I wouldn't sell to Wix. Just so.
there are limits, right?
But we had a lot of conversations with them, and it was the thing that terrified me the most, that they would be mad at us for
Were
selling.
they?
Yeah.
Were they?
No.
No?
Not in my face. No, I don't think so.
So does it go for the others as well? Did you involve your team in these decisions?
We involved the key team managers. We didn't involve everybody. I think that in the US we don't have any law like that. So I think that's pretty standard too, for US companies at least. So we involved them the week of the final deal. And after it was done, we gave everybody bonuses, and everybody was happy, and nobody left. And better benefits.
It's a waterfall approach. The Sally and I knew first that it was happening. We're having discussions. Then the other C-suite and then the few others that we needed to help with the due diligence process. And then sadly, most people, like the day it was announced, I'm telling them. But it's about the people really hits with me because, 50 employees, these are 50 other families that counted on us. And my wife and I. And so it's like you carry that burden kind of like parents. Like, man, we got to make sure these people are all accounted for and happy. And it's not just about Josh and Sally getting their windfall. It's how do we make sure this entire company, that everybody that bet on us gets something in return. And one thing that came to mind afterwards is they didn't ask for it. The team didn't ask for us to sell the company. It happened to them. And so that responsibility of us basically forcing that on those 50 other people, we carried that heavily and really made sure that, sorry to surprise you all, but look at all this work I did ahead of time. We got negotiated everybody this great package, we got this, we got this, we got this runway, we got this. I've done all the work, guys. This is going to be a great few years. Let's go. And that brought everybody along, and everybody was fun.
Almost like Christmas, it sounds.
Kinda, yeah, right? I was Santa, yeah.
And I mean, I could repeat, but I'm going to pivot that same question on the other side. Not all acquisitions come with people. A lot of our acquisitions were product acquisitions where, GigPress came over because he'd been at it 10 years and he was like, I'm done. I want somebody who's going to treat my users with respect, who have a vision for the product, who care about bands and events. And we ran the largest events platform in WordPress, so there was a signature, and he was just looking for home. And so sometimes it's about the users. Sometimes it's about the staff. Sometimes it's about vision and care. And that, that acquisition, it wasn't big. Not a lot of people wrote about it. It was a hug and a few grand. It was like, yeah, man, we got your back. We'll take on the cost and burden of this thing and shepherd it because we saw value and had a vision, but I know there are some of these big ones, but a lot of the acquisitions you see aren't big. They're small, and they're about connecting with the value there. So,
I think we have about 5-6 minutes left. I think Devin mentioned like a checklist with 80 points. I think that's a bit
At least 80.
too much
was
to
only
go
80.
over. But what, from your own experience, what are kind of items on that checklist that, have your ducks in a row, all the things that we touched upon, but
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with your finances, your customer base, your churn, proof of income, then it goes into the software, explaining your model, doing an audit, talking about vulnerabilities in the past, talking about any sort of, what kind of debt you have, when did you pay that debt off, do you have any more outstanding debt? I mean, it goes on and on. When I say 80 bullets, there's like sub-bullets under those sub-points, and it goes on and on, so.
Ours was a 8-tab Excel sheet, and each tab had probably 150 rows.
And if you're finished, they have another
then
one.
they have more.
And you weren't aware, but there was another one all
It's like,
around.
hold on, this is some bullshit. I did not.
Wait, did the banker help with that at all?
A little bit.
So things to think about. Like if you're sitting here and you run an agency, or if you have an open source plugin, I think the questions to start thinking about is, what type of outcome am I looking for? Am I looking to join a bigger team? Is that a thing I care about? Am I looking to walk away? Am I looking for, because every single one of these conversations is really unique. We went through a half dozen, and each one, like I would have imagined like they'd have the same questions and want the same things, but actually they were really unique and really different. And a lot of what my partners and I wanted, and same thing when we've bought, like a lot of times I'll sit down, the first thing I'm like, so what's success look like? Oh, well, here's the things I care about, here I don't. Like, I remember Josh and I were talking a few years ago, and I was like, how much do you care about the brand? He's like, I care. I'm like, they can have my name. What do I care? Like modern tribe, whatever.
with some swear words in between, probably.
Sorry, what?
With some swear words in between, probably.
Yeah. So,
Pagely is the only brand that matters.
There, see, and I don't have that much ego, and so. But my point is, if you have a sense of the kind of life you want to live, and you've hung out with your partners, and you've gone hiking, and you've talked about what a few years later looks like, and what things matter, then when you start looking for partners, or you start talking about conversations. And you can also date before you get married. You can have a partnership and try a thing.
It's a really good thing. I got this because we talked to a lot of different companies, and I felt obligated almost because we had such a nice conversation. And so we said to each other, we're dating and we're seeing other people. And it's okay. Yeah, because you can get like, and this is business, so people can be really kind to you and visit you in your office, but that still doesn't mean that you have to sell your company to them.
Yeah, it's an open relationship, right?
Yes. Yes.
How modern. What about pitfalls? What are things that you wish you knew before, or something that went wrong during the process? Is there something else we can take from this?
The actual transaction and the process, I think, went really well for us, and I'm quite happy with the result, and I'm actually quite happy in my new role. But the pitfall, I just wish I knew how slow big companies move. Like, it's been frustrating
I
for
would
me.
have. I didn't. It's like riding a bicycle. If you ride it too slow, you're Dutch. You know this. If you ride it too slow, you fall off. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I feel the same.
We're just used to, okay, it's hard to turn a big boat, but does it really take 12 weeks of meetings to make this decision? Let's just make the decision and go.
I think, too, for us, this is a good and the bad. We picked a partner who I felt genuinely had our best interest at heart and had a vision for the deal, because in one of our deals, there was a single word in the wrong place, and afterwards, and in a publicly company audit, the CFO came back and said, hey, based on the way this is read, your interpretation gives you an extra $1.2 million, and my interpretation does not. And we had to resolve that after the deal 4 months later. And that was a very, very, very stressful period of time. And the reason it was okay was that the team we did it, we looked each other in the eyes and said, look, you and I had conversations, you know what I intended, you know what I signed to. And they're like, yeah, we will work this out with good faith. And they did. And while it wasn't much fun, having somebody there who wanted us there made it so that we were able to meet and we got paid. But man, that could have really stunk.
Yeah, I would say there's something called like an earnout, and before you get these marks and you get these levels, and you're growing at a rapid clip, and you think you're still going to keep growing that level for the next 2.5, 3 years, or whatever your earnout period is, and sometimes that doesn't go according to exactly how you envision it. So maybe one of the pitfalls is, you want to double the thing, you want to triple it, and maybe you got to temper your expectations a little bit, right?
Or you got to decide what's more important, that extra opportunity or the stress. Because we did the opposite. We had a conversation about whether or not we wanted an upper earnout, and we took 20% off the top of the price to just be like, I don't want to worry about that. I just want to be here, and I want to pick whatever's best for the org, even if it's not aligned with my own personal earnout. And I'd seen so many scenarios with friends where their own financial benefit was at odds with the best thing for the team, the customer, the company, and they were just stuck, and it was awful. And so we made a decide to take less money. We had bigger offers from other people with a lot more money, but it came with hooks where I just couldn't see how those hooks wouldn't keep me up at night.
Same goes for us. We didn't do an earnout because that would mean that we have this value at Yoast and says making money does not come first, and then all of a sudden it probably would come first if it would mean that we would make a lot of money if we hit that goal. So we said no to an earnout as well. So I think that's a really important one.
Yeah.
I know that, and it can be stressful to work in a company that you don't particularly like. So being free offers you a lot of room, and also means that they have to be nice to you because they want to keep you. Yeah.
This is going to be the hardest part on this panel discussion. I need to end it. I have the feeling we could talk another 45 minutes, but I know there's a hard stop on the video, on the stream. So I really want to thank you, and I would like a great applause for my guests.
For those of you following us, I hope you enjoyed looking at the WordPress ecosystem from a business-oriented point of view. And for those of you joining us for the first time, I'd recommend looking through the description below to see other titles that might be of interest, and subscribe for updates on future videos.